everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the TGIF edition of Today in Sports Betting. Taking a look at the daily basketball card. Scott, I know we kind of make it our thing where we get on here and we bitch about the games that we have, but this is not a great day for basketball, either from the televised games in the NBA or the card in the NCAA. Usually that Friday night, it's kind of obviously that's probably the weakest night of the weakest night of the week. But they usually have given us a game or two, a marquee game from the Big Ten or something that we can kind of sink our teeth into. That's not the case tonight.
I was going to say, or the Ivy games usually.
I'm talking this year.
This year, of course, it's a lot more limited, but you would see more games on the card had the Ivy not canceled their season.
Made a lot of money on the Ivy in my life, Scott. Not going to lie. It's been a pretty predictable conference.
You just blindly bet Harvard almost every year.
Yeah, especially at home. It was
Harvard, Yale. You kind of fade Brown all the time.
Yep, Brown's a good fade. Princeton is a good team to back.
Dartmouth is usually a fade as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Usually nothing changes in that conference.
Nothing changes except when they don't play. So
correct.
That changes a bit. So you know what? We go with the card we have. So we'll start off in the college ranks, Scott. I know this is going to be a quickie because you and I spent about 15 minutes before the show going over it and basically telling how much we didn't like anything. I've got one game. I've identified one game that I liked, and that's pretty much it. Of course, I made a premium play out of that. So what gets your attention here? And I know this is going to be fast because we don't have a ton of stuff. What are some of your leans?
Well, looking through the overall card, really not a fan of much. As we talked about before, I'd lean to Dickinson plus 4.5 against LIU Brooklyn. I know they just played yesterday, but Dickinson basically smacked them, and money has poured in on Dickinson so far in the early morning. So I think Dickinson might be live to win that game. I know we talked about the late game in the Mountain West. I think Nevada's alive against Boise. I don't know if they're officially going to win the game, but Nevada's, after a pretty slow start to the season, has been playing some really good basketball lately. And Boise, even though it did avenge its loss to Colorado State, I watched that game. It came on strong for a couple stretches. I'd say it didn't exactly look amazing throughout all 40, but Nevada's been playing better basketball. I think the spread is a little low at first glance when you realize how good Boise State is, but I think it might be low for a reason. I'll lean to Nevada there. Am I going to play both those games? Maybe not. Maybe a little sprinkle on the money line. But I do think that those lines are a little bit too high for me. So for me, I'll take the dogs with those.
Okay. I've got a dog that, and it kills me to take this team as a dog, but I'm just not impressed with this Hawaii team. If you want to play one, the last game of the night, playing Cal Poly San Luis Obispo is they're catching 12.5 from the Rainbow Warriors. I don't hate that. Again, probably something. Well, I'm a junkie, so it's probably something I'll play for a little sprinkle just to have it on while I'm working. But consider the Akron Kent State over. Not a bad play there. That Akron, I think that Akron team is due for a bounce back after their Toledo game. Yeah, I mean everything. The lines are sharp on anything I might be interested in. Our Big Ten game is Maryland and Penn State. Penn State
probably lean Penn State. I find it kind of. I'm curious if Maryland will be fat and happy after pulling off that upset victory, or I know they were favored, but are ranked, whatever you want to call it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a letdown spot there.
Maryland's another team with extreme splits that doesn't play well on the road.
Yeah.
So, not quite as bad as Minnesota. Can we even talk about that game last night? You and I both had that. I had as a premium play minus. We booked it at 5.5. I had it personally at -5. -4, or they were down 4. Missed the free throw. Get the rebound. 10 seconds
left. Rephrase, Minnesota's down 4, and Rutgers misses the free throw with about 10 seconds left, and they just decided, you know what? Let's not foul. Well, let's just let them. Let's go home. I don't really know. I mean, I've roasted Pitino before, so I'm not really surprised that of all teams to do it, it would be a Richard Pitino team. But you really can't foul there. It's like, really?
of all the ridiculous times, they, in the NBA they get it. They'll pull the dogs off if there's literally no shot. In
It's usually
college,
like a 3-possession game, though. Like if you're up 7.
in college they'll foul. We were talking. We had a game. I can't remember a couple weeks ago. I can't remember if we had the under, if we had the wrong side, but they're down 9 with 20 seconds left. They fouled. You're like, what are you doing? It's over. It's over, boys. Let it go. But yeah, no foul last night. So
No. It wasn't a fun time.
no, it wasn't. It hasn't been. Yeah, we've had a decent week. I know you're having a bad week. My bad week was week before last, where we couldn't buy a win. So
yeah, my week's not a fun time, but I feel like last night was a perfect summary of that. Where I also had the debacle at the end of the first half. Rutgers has the ball with 4 seconds left, no shot clock, turnover, loose ball foul, technical foul, 4 free throws for Minnesota.
Possible 7-point swing where they could have gone 5 up with a 3-pointer.
I knew as soon as that happened, I'm like, oh, I'm screwed.
Instead, they're 2 down. You're like, well, as long as we don't lose by a point or 2, that'll be fine.
Yeah, but you knew as soon as it happened, like instead of being at the half up 2 and now you're down 2,
it
usually doesn't work out.
It just couldn't go any other way. It couldn't. So, all right. So let's move on to the NBA. Skeeter, we've got one.
I see 2.
You see 2. You see 2.
I see the Raptors Nets game and I see the Celtics Clippers game.
See, I've got to use a different source because I've just got the late game as far as the ESPN game goes.
I see Nets game as well.
And you see that ESPN?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got a premium on the on the total there, but I'd be happy to talk about the Raptors net side. I'll let you start it off. What do you think, bud?
Well, looking at this matchup, we know that the Nets seem to be really, I'd say, competitive against good teams, and this team struggles to put teams away when they're favorites because I don't really know. I forgot what the exact point spread cover situation was with the Nets. It's not very good. I know that ever since Harden got there, they have a winning record. They've been playing well overall, but you had a couple of really bad showings against the Wizards and the Cavs twice. You talk about the Nets playing well. They beat Oklahoma City in a game that was a blowout. They ended up covering against the Clippers. So they've had some good spots, mostly on television, beat the Bucks. So you've had some moments there. Toronto has been, well, bad. There's really no other way to put it. They're 9-12. I know that they ended up having a terrible start. So they have played a little bit better, relatively speaking. I know Van Vliet's coming off of the greatest performance of all time by an undrafted player, as he ended up scoring 50-plus points, and he was ridiculous in that game against Orlando. Do I think he's going to go for 50 again? No. But I do think that he, of course...
Although if ever there was a defense he could do it against, it would be the Nets.
That is definitely true. The question you have to ask yourself is, can Toronto generate enough consistent scoring? I know against the Nets' terrible defense, but just bear with me there. Does Toronto have enough weapons to actually put up 130, 125 against the Nets? And the truth is, even though the Nets' defense is not good, I actually will have hesitation to committing to that because Toronto's offense, you're looking at Lowry, who is a pretty good offensive player. I think people know him for more being an all-around solid player. Van Vliet, of course, a very good scorer. Your Norman Powell has been injured, but he can put up points. And Pascal's been pretty good. But for the most part, I'll lean to the Nets. Am I thrilled about it? No. But at the end of the day, once again, I can't take an under with the Nets games until I actually see it go under, because it's 16-1 to the over in the last 17 or something.
Correct.
Like I can't. So I'll have to lean to the over. Not happy about it, but I'll lean to the Nets as well, because I think Toronto, despite having good coaching, seems to just be a little bit offensively challenged this year, and I think that's definitely concerning when you're going up against 3 of the best scorers in the entire league.
Yeah, I think this is I think it's a bad situational spot for Toronto as well. They're coming off of they're kind of at the beginning of a massive road swing there. They've got 7 on the road. This is the second of 7 on the road. The Nets have had a couple days off. They haven't played since the second when they took care of business against the Clippers. Yeah, they again. I'll go ahead and back the Nets here. They're the better team. You always wonder what you're going to get with this team. They're still
every game comes down to the wire in the final 5 minutes with this team.
That does seem to be the case. They blasted Oklahoma City, but everything else has been just about a one possession game for the most part with this team. So,
Yep.
Yeah, take the Nets and hang on, grit your teeth there.
Mm-hmm.
See what happens. See how many Van Fleet can put up. Although for those of us that got to see him play a lot at Wichita State, seeing him having success in the NBA is not a massive surprise.
I thought it'd be good. I didn't think he'd be a 20-plus point scorer. I thought he was going to be more of a sixth man point guard kind of guy.
Well, I think on a good team he would be.
Yeah.
He certainly has the capability of turning it on. All right, so our second game here is going to be the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Clippers out there from Los Angeles at the Staples Center. And what do you got for a current number on that while I click around here?
So the current number that I see for the most part is 6.5 for the Clippers. Total has dropped from around 221 to 219.5. That's what I see.
Okay. Theories on that total drop. And by the way, the total's dropped in the Nets game too, went from 243.5 down to 240. Is that, you think that's sharp action pounding that under, saying the Nets under is due?
I'd have to assume so. It's a mix of maybe Brooklyn's defense actually showing some signs of life against the Clippers a little bit. I know it gave up 120 points, but you know what I mean? It actually did not look completely useless. But I think it's mostly a fade of Toronto. I think they're looking at Toronto and saying this team doesn't exactly play an up-tempo style.
Right.
And offensively, you have two weapons. I'd say you have Van Vliet, who's their main scorer, and you could kind of merge Lowry and Siakam because it seems like they take turns of having good games offensively.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? Like, what's Lowry's ceiling for points in any given game? Like 25?
Yeah, you would think in the low 20s, 25 tops, yeah.
Very good player, but you know him for being a 17, 8, and 7 kind of guy. Like, that's just who he is. So when it comes to scoring, unless Norman Powell goes for like 20-something, 30-something, I don't see Toronto scoring more than 115. Just how I see it.
Okay. All right, good enough.
I'll still lean to the over, but I think you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a game that opened up at 5, is now 6.5. Like you said, money is still coming in on the Clippers. I don't know. I think this is I don't love this spot for Boston. Boston is one of those teams that I struggle with. I'm not going to lie.
I've actually been pretty good with Boston this year.
And
again, the secret to being good with Boston is to just pretty much lay off them for the entire season except for one game. Because I was right about the Warriors game. That was basically all, and the Lakers game. So I think I'm 2-0 with the Celtics so far this year. But this team's had a lot of injuries. I know Jaylen Brown is questionable, which I think is the main reason why you have seen this line move. Because, of course, if he does not play, Brown is he is in line for a serious consideration for the Most Improved Player award. I mean, he's averaging 26.4 points per game. He's been absolutely insane. But if he misses this game, of course, then the Clippers will have a massive edge. I expect Tatum to probably take around 20 to 30-something shots because I don't know who else is going to do it because Kemba can't hit water if he fell out of a boat right now. But that's where most of the line movements come in. Truth is, I know that people expect us to give leans and thoughts on games. I can't answer this if Jaylen Brown's going to be out. I don't know if he's going to play or not. If Brown's going to play, I take the points. If he's not going to play, I'd probably pass. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah, it definitely makes it a lot harder. I don't.
Brown's too valuable. I can't. If you don't want to talk about comparison, he's been arguably as valuable as Tatum when they've played. I think Tatum's still the better player, but I mean Brown's been insane.
Yeah, and he's been the reason that they're still fucking competitive there.
Yeah. I hate the Clippers backcourt though. It is so awful. I know that Paul George. I'm not really including him. I'm talking about just Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, Lou Williams, and Lou Williams doesn't even do anything anymore. Like he's just barely involved in anything. I know Beverly's out, but realistically, are you a big Beverly guy? I think he's okay at best, with really no offensive upside. They need a point guard, like really, really badly, and they just don't have one.
No, it's hard to believe they didn't address that, but here we are.
I don't know, but that's an issue. I thought an issue was giving Batum serious minutes, but Batum's actually been pretty good so far this season. I know he got absolutely torched defensively against the Nets in the fourth quarter. But I expect Boston to do what they did against Golden State. Of course, not to the same degree because Golden State had 0 centers and still murdered Dallas yesterday. Shout out to Dallas for being terrible.
Missed that one a bit, didn't we?
I had Golden State. I had Golden State in the over. That was actually one of the only things I got right yesterday.
No, we talked about it on the show. How there was no way they were going to be able to do it with no presence in the middle.
I said even with no presence, I don't like the back-to-back for Dallas, and I was taking Golden State.
All right, I have to look that.
You can look it up. I know what I said.
Oh, okay. Well,
but I mean, yeah, I didn't account for a Kelly Oubre 40-point game, but
because you hate Oubre.
Correct, but he got buckets yesterday, and I'll give him props for it. But anyway, back to this game. Boston in that game, the reason why I picked them against Golden State was because I knew that they would end up using Tice and Thompson together, and they would dominate the boards. And I believe they had 62 rebounds in that game. I rebounded Golden State by 20. I know the Clippers don't have those same issues, but when you got Ibaka at center with probably Batum at the power forward spot, I kind of got to assume Boston's just going to double down on big men and try to create more second-chance points. And I'm also not the biggest Zubac fan. So I don't think he'll bring much to the table. He's a decent rebounder, but I don't think he does much defensively. So I'll lean Boston because I think Brown's going to play. But I can't touch this without knowing if Brown's going to be in the lineup or not.
Okay, fair enough.
I have to dance around the question. I think you'll agree.
I listened to you talk about this. I listened to you talk about this Clippers team. And it's like to hear you talk, they barely have a reason to get out of bed in the morning, yet they're the hottest team in the NBA. They've won 11 of their last 13. They've covered 4 or 5. Well, they must be doing something right.
I'm just acknowledging that this team on paper – see, regular season, I know that they're a good team. But I'm just saying when it comes to playoff stuff, I think you'll agree their point guards are just a disaster.
Well, it's a good thing that we're in February. Then.
Correct. It's a big thing that we're in February. I'm just throwing it out there that – it's worth mentioning. But then again, you also have to talk about what teams the Clippers have actually beaten in this winning streak. If you want to actually go through all the games, beat Chicago. Tell me how many teams actually impress you out of this list.
I know they're playing against the East. They're playing against the dregs of the East. But
correct. But I just want to run.
They're playing road games. They're getting it done.
Just let me run through it. I want you to just tell me how many wins here have actually impressed you based on the team they're playing against. Chicago, New Orleans, Sacramento, Indiana, Sacramento, Oklahoma City, Atlanta, Miami, Orlando, New York, and Cleveland. What do you have? Indiana?
All you do is play the games in front of you, and you
correct. But I'm saying I'm not going to overreact to the recent success because they're going up against some of the worst teams in the league for about 3 straight weeks.
Okay,
the schedule's been awful.
Well, now you get another East Coast team that's on the road.
I'm just saying the Clippers had a huge step-up spot against the Nets and came up short. So even though the Clippers' record is good, I think a lot of it is a product of the actual schedule that it's had up to this point.
Okay, I'll take the Clippers back at home.
That's fair. I can't answer until I know Brown's playing. If Brown's playing, I think the Celtics have a shot to win outright. But I am not really sure if he's going to play. So
I'm not sure the Celtics can get enough stops without Marcus Smart.
That's fair.
So
that's fair.
All right. So any thought on the total there?
Lean under.
Okay.
A decent amount of money coming in on the under. Boston with some of the injuries and the lack of depth. It seems like Boston's been kind of playing a slower style, mostly in the half court, especially with 2 big men now because Tice and Thompson play a decent amount of minutes. This team doesn't exactly have great 3-point floor spacing. I know Tice can shoot a little bit, but this team mostly just clogs the paint and tries to play quality defense, and I think you'll agree with that. And the Clippers, even though defensively they got torched by the Nets are on pace for the best offense in the history of the league. So you still have Paul George, you still have Kawhi, still have Ibaka at center. And the Celtics offensively, besides Brown and Tatum, don't have many options because Kemba's shooting less than 40% from the floor. So I got to lean to the under.
Definitely having a bad season so far, although, you expect better out of him. I'm just not sure if we're going to get it.
Also coming off an injury, so I don't know how long it's going to take for him to get back. But I'm just saying Boston has pretty much been a 2-headed monster with a massive drop-off in between.
Yeah, and they've been a pretty good under team, especially on the road, on this swing especially. So yeah, I could lean under there. But it is, you're right. It's hard to handicap this game without knowing the status of Jaylen Brown. That's the bottom line. Is we're probably not going to make any kind of decision on this until we get some kind of info on what his status is going to be. Agreed.
Yep, agree.
All right. Anything else on the NBA card grab you?
Well, looking at some matchups here, really not much. I thought about maybe taking Chicago against Orlando, but both those teams are bad. I think Chicago is significantly better than Orlando, but both teams have been pretty awful lately. One game I thought about taking, I know I didn't do my play of the day video yet. I already had something in mind for that. I was thinking about maybe taking the Pacers and Pelicans over at 228. Indiana got torched defensively against Milwaukee in its last game. New Orleans, I know, has played better defense lately, mostly against the Suns, giving up 101. But both those teams have actually played surprisingly fast-paced. And if you want to look at defensive metrics, New Orleans is still a terrible defensive team. I know that they killed me on the over earlier this week with them and the Kings because they scored 15 in the fourth. But I think you'll agree that both teams should have a lot of success offensively. And when both teams basically have an impromptu team total of 114 in a Pelicans game, I think you kind of got to lean to the over.
Yeah, I would consider I would consider the over there as well, as well as both team totals. 114 Pelicans, 115 Pacers. I don't hate either one of those numbers.
Really, anything else stand out to you? Because I don't see much. I thought about maybe Oklahoma City, just for fading flops or unders.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City, I was wrong with them also earlier in the week as I took Houston to kill them, and then Houston lost them by about 20 and then beat Memphis yesterday, so I'm not really sure what happened there. But Oklahoma City, this team plays hard, and I'll give them props for it. Minnesota, I think you'll agree, they're poorly coached. The roster's not very good. The thing about Oklahoma City is that they're bad, except they actually look like a competent team every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota just looks like a chicken without a head half the time.
Yeah, Oklahoma City has surprised people a little bit this season. Minnesota has not.
Yeah, Minnesota's just bad.
Just
Towns being out for a decent portion, of course, is a huge reason why.
Sure.
But if you just watch Minnesota, this team has no type of flow. The rotations just look bad. I don't know what this team does well.
Well, that's the problem. When you build your team around one guy and that guy's not there, you're going to struggle.
Correct, but I'm just saying I don't know what Minnesota's actually good at.
Yeah, letting the other team cover.
Yeah, that's kind of all you got because it's not coaching, it's not players.
All right. Very good, man. So that's going to do it for our basketball card. Like I said, it's there's always opportunities. And it's one of those things where you look at them at the end of the day when you see the finals, you're like, well, we should have seen that coming or whatever. But you look at it right now, and it's not the greatest card. And like I said, you and I have struggled very on and off for the last couple of weeks. I know you had a better week last week, and then this week has been, and I kind of went reverse. But it's not the get well card I was looking for.
No, I'm hoping Saturday will take care of that. But at the end of the day, hopefully the play that I choose works out and we end up making some money.
Right, agreed. You and I were talking about that when things are going well. It's almost like when you're in a zone playing a sport where you see the ball really well. You go through that card and things just pop. You're like, look at this, and you do the background on it. You're like, absolutely. So
you lose and you can't find one single thing that you actually enjoy.
Right, yep. Exactly. So this too shall pass, my friend. And of course, we got the Super Bowl this weekend. You and I are going to do our video right behind this. We're going to do our general Super Bowl show here today, and then later on this afternoon, we're going to do a little prop show. So that should be fun. Stay tuned for that as well. And of course, if you're looking for information, if we haven't given you enough nuggets here with this basketball card, certainly feel free to stop by and check out winnersandwhiners.com, doing deep dives with predictions on every single game, every single day. So make sure you stop by, check out winnersandwhiners.com. Of course, we wish you guys nothing but the best, not only today, but for the whole weekend. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money back at the window. You guys have a great day. For myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at Winners and Whiners, thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stick around. Check us out on the next edition of Today in Sports Betting when we'll be talking about a little Super Bowl action. All right, you guys take care. See ya.